So good evening everyone again, and I hope you all are doing well and are safe at homes. So welcome back to another wonderful session of Book Club. I'm Suman, I'll be the host today, and timing is managed by Tahseen. Each speaker will be given 4 minutes and they have to speak about the book, and the newcomer will be given 30 seconds to give introduction about themselves and their opinion about this book club. So let's begin with the very first speaker of today, Tahseen. So she'll be speaking about the creativity and the creative curve. Over to you, Tahseen.
Thank you so much, Suman. Thanks a lot. And I'm going to talk about this book called The Creative Curve, which I really liked actually. The kind of stories it has or the kind of examples it gives is really, really interesting. I have never got so much of interest in a book till date. I think this is the first book I've got so much of interest in. So it was talking, there is a story I would like to talk about. It talks about the IQ of termites. So there was this family called Terman family. So we were talking about the origin of the myth, right? How we think it is all inherent or inbuilt. The creativity is not something which you can actually go ahead and work upon or build upon or enhance as a skill. But while we are talking about the origin of myth, one of the stories that the writer talks about is about a Terman family. So there was a Terman family who were landlords, had like 640 acres of land and a very small village, and with all the land being being managed by them, and lots of money, lots of resources, lots of stores, businesses, everything, and well settled. And this Terman family, the head of the family had 14 kids. And he had one last kid whose name was Lewis. Lewis was very different from other people, and he was father's favorite. So this guy used to be very quiet, not very someone who goes to school or very attentive or very outspoken or outgoing kind of a person. But he used to come back in the evenings from school, sit and study a book or do something on his own. So after a certain point, after 10 years, he started to go to a bookshop where he used to sell the books. So when he was sitting in the bookstore, there was a man who actually passes by, and he comes by and says, I want to buy a book on phrenology. So I was reading a little about phrenology, and it says it is about reading someone's brain structure and mental abilities of human. So phrenology is a study where someone reads about the brain structure and mental abilities of people. So this person says it is about phrenology, so give me that book. And this kid gets fascinated about it and starts reading a lot about phrenology and how it works, what it is. And then he goes to the school, he creates interest in himself that okay, this is what it is, I need to read about brains or mental abilities of the humans and kind of things. And he goes to Stanford and he's studying there. He then comes across this one test called Binet's test, which was in 1990s initially, when they started about reading about these psychometric tests or conducting these psychometric tests, which we call right now in today's generation. They started this at that point of time, and Binet's test was more to check on mental abilities of the people who are lacking, like the kids who are not mentally very strong or not able to perform or outperform. The studies are conducted on those kids. And at that point of time, not just at that point of time, I think even now, right, when we see someone who is very studious or someone who is brilliant or genius, who has really good IQ, we call them nerds, right? We call them a little off from what we all are. We say, okay, they are all nerds and they are geeks. And it's the same culture which has been followed from them. At that point of time, also the intelligent kids or people who were intelligent, all of them were looked little offbeat from general public. They were looked as different people altogether, like differently abled people basically. That's how it was portrayed in the writings also. Like they are seen as very different people, not like a common public that is there. So when he was reading and he understood, okay, these neurotic and maniac people who are very intelligent, I need to study on them So I'm pursuing now from Stanford, and I see this Binet's test. Let me go ahead and conduct a study on people who are brilliant, not on people who are like less IQ or who are not brilliant. And then he starts conducting, and he has taken case studies of almost 1500 plus people. And he conducted this for like almost 10 years, 15 years. He kept in touch with these people as sampling to understand where they have gone, what they have done, how did they progress, how much percentage of these people have grown to the next levels, or how much percentage of these people have been successful, right? And then he realizes not all of them are successful, very less percentage of them are successful. And even if they're successful, does not mean they're very successful in their personal life, but there are people who are really, really good at their personal life balance, and also with their whatever IQ or intelligence that they have, correct? And once Lewis passed away, there was a prodigy. Like there was someone who was following him really well. He wanted to conduct this study and say, okay, this was conducted and said that intelligent people and people with high IQ are the ones who are really successful in life. Right now, I want to conduct and see where these people are, how these people are doing, correct? So with high IQ also, there are people who are working as masons, someone who is working at the carpentries, and there are people who just joined a factory. It's not really required that someone with really high IQ has to grow in life and go to the next levels or be successful or be rich. So that's the study which came out from this prodigy. So the entire story, what it says, when Lewis conducted, he was very biased to conduct the study only on the intelligent people and intelligence of the person, and all the angles were not captured. If all the angles were captured, and if all the components are captured well, to understand where they sit, where they stand, and people with less IQ, if they are there in the position which high IQ people are there, then where is the creativity gone in this? If we think high IQ people has got good creativity, then the people who has way less IQ are also at the level of these people in terms of career or growth or being rich or making money, anything. So at the end of the story, he leaves it with a question that, okay, if the high IQ person is there, even the person with less IQ is in the same position. So how do we justify the creativity if we are banging on the stuff saying neurotic or maniac people are more creative and the people with less intelligence are not creative? So that's about the story. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Taisin. So that was a wonderful talk. So intelligence has nothing to do with the creativity. I think that is what the author is trying to say here. So all right, thank you. That was a great talk. So,
Thanks, Suman. Thanks a lot.
thank you, Taisin. So moving on, we have Alok. So he'll be speaking about one of the best self-help books, The Magic of Thinking Big. So Alok, over to you. So Alok is there in the call, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sumana.
Yeah, Alok, hi.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Alok Kumar, and with profession, I am a software engineer. So today I will be talking about chapter 4, How to Think Big, from the book Magic of Thinking Big. So we have seen most of the people have tendency of thinking small. There is a very less competition than we think for a very rewarding careers. So we are all come from some profession and we understand it very well. And I will ask one question: based on what criteria we all have decided our career? Is it with a broad mind or with narrow mind? Is it based on the commonly available career path or most rewarding career path? So one of the greatest weakness a human being has is self-deprecation, that is selling oneself short. So many of the times people see big opportunity matching with their skill, but they does not react to that. And the main reason for this passive reaction to the opportunity are the most people knows their weakness more than their strength. And many of the time it happened with me also. So I remember many of the times in my experience, if we have to cover 8 topic or 8 chapter for any of the interview and just studied 7 out of 8, but always keep thinking for one and never feeling confident. But when we knows only 4 chapter and think about what we knows, we feel more confident. So it all depends on what kind of signal we send to our mind, and that result in rewarded or punished to ourselves. So we have so many weaknesses as we feel, but are still getting paid for something for our skill set. Idea is simple, that whether we understand our strength or not, but other person who think big, they understand their requirement and hire the best possible candidate to their job without giving much value to the other weakness which is not relevant to the position. But a common people always keep on thinking of the weaknesses which is not very much relevant, but still they focus more on their weakness. They think more about their weakness rather than thinking about their strength, which is adding more asset, like more valuable asset in their career. So if other person can reward to us for the best asset we hold, why can't we do for ourselves? And the best way to reward ourselves is by using a vocabulary a big thinker uses. So always use positive, cheerful words and phrases to describe your feeling. We should always use bright, cheerful, favorable words and phrases to describe other people. So we have to make a habit to always appreciate and reward with a good vocabulary to the associate and the friends. Never miss the opportunity to compliment someone personally if they have done well, and use always positive words to outline our plans to the others. So a big thinker always visualize what they can done, what can be done in future rather than stuck with the present challenges or happiness. With this, I'm done. Over to you, Suma. Thank you.
Yeah, Lok. Yeah, that was great talk. So great summary. Always use positive words and take your focus more on your strengths rather than your weaknesses. That in turn increases our confidence. So thank you, Alok. Thank you for the summary. So any newcomers in the group, Sam? I'm not sure. Please help me here.
No. So there is
right?
Meenakshi is going to talk for first time, but she's not new. She has joined last time. So.
I think she has joined. I saw her now. Meenakshi is there on the call, right?
Yeah, she will speak. Her name is in the list.
Okay. So Meenakshi, hi.
Yeah, I am there.
Yeah, Meenakshi. So all the best for your first talk. And she's going to talk about very interesting topic, the 5 laws of stratospheric success. So over to you, Meenakshi.
Thank you. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Meenakshi. Yeah, so I'm going to talk for the first time. A bit nervous. Yeah, so we have all. This is a story about a person who's actually a businessman, and he is very he wants to achieve a lot of things in life, but still he's not being able to achieve those bigger projects in his life. And he come across a person called Pindar, who's actually very successful, and a lot of people know about him. So he meets him, and he make him aware about 5 important laws of stratospheric success. So the first one is about value, which teaches him about it's not about the amount of money which you're going to get if you're providing any service to someone. It's about the value which you are creating. Like we always see how we are reading a book. So we are not getting paid for it. We do a lot of things which add value, which people try to understand us. Every time there is not a compensation which is received by us. Then compensation is the second law of success, where it depends on how many people you are actually serving. So it depends on how you are networking and how you're trying to make an impact on a person, and then only you can broaden your customer base or anyone. It's not always about the business, but this is also a life. It can can also be applied in life for a success. Then third one, he talks about the influence. This is basically giving respect to other person's interest. So it's like your interest should be considered, but before that you should also consider other person's interest. Like nowadays when the marketing is done or anything is done, it keeps into notice like what is the requirement of a customer, then accordingly the marketing or the products are being developed. So it is very important to understand the other person's interest. This also can be applied in a life where you can remove your work for a particular time, and then you can listen to the other person, and that person might also feel good. Then the fourth one is about authenticity. Like whenever we see a particular company is pitching for their ideas or anything, it is always said that you should put your thoughts, you should be what you are, rather than just trying to like being someone. That actually sells much better than just trying to be someone. And the fifth one is about receptivity. It is not always about receiving, it is sometimes about giving as well. So you should also try, like in life or in work, in whatever terms, you should also have that habit of giving rather than receiving. And it's a circle of life. When you start giving, then you start receiving as well. So we have always heard about big businessmen like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. They have started in a very small scale, but with their network, with their knowledge, with adding value to the people and creating awareness, they have actually reached to a very they have reached to such a level where a lot of people recognize them. Thank you.
Hey Meenakshi, that was a wonderful talk and a great summary. So we have to always focus on networking and building valuable relationship with people. And that was an awesome line, like circle of life, what you give, you get it back. So thank you so much, Meenakshi. So yeah, moving on, we have Samapta Raj.
Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. So the last book that I was reading is is a book called Rich Dad and Poor Dad, the same as Thamarai Bhaiya was reading, and this is a book which I think everyone must read, as everyone must have a knowledge of money and how it exactly works. And I believe everyone must be financial literate, because like my dad says, not every night is a full moon one. We have got to go through moonless nights as well. So as it's very late, so let me start with something that is interesting. In this book, the author has drawn our attention towards corporations. For a regular guy who does his job from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. He has his job, he gets his salary. Before getting his salary, some portion of his earnings are deducted at the source, and then he has to pay the income tax also. And then what is left, he gets to spend it. But a corporation earns, it spends, and pays taxes on what's remaining. As a company, suppose you're an owner of the company, or you're the director of a company, you get to roam around the world in the name of visits or board meetings, and those are your company's expenses. You don't give money out of your personal savings or account or whatever. And not only this, companies have different legal rights. They are much more protected, as you all must know. There is a concept called separate business entity concept. That means you can sue a business if it has done something wrong, but you cannot sue its owner. Now, this is very interesting. I got to know about it just a few days back. Let me take you all 200 years back in time, 250, 300 years back in time, when the British East India Company came to India as a trading company. At that time, India's GDP in the world was second, and it was only second to the Qing dynasty in China. And at that time, we had Mughal dynasty in India. The Mughals ruled the Indian subcontinent. And guess what? This company, this British East India Company, it took over a whole empire. The United Kingdom's GDP was not even in the top 10 at that time. The UK was not even in the talks, not even the maps at that time. And overnight, they became the second in terms of GDP. And this is the power of a corporation. and back to the boring stuff. The first one is things that we call our assets are not actually our assets. The author has mentioned the example of a house. So the author says that an asset is something that puts money in your pocket, and a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Now suppose if we own a house, or suppose we own a car. Now if we are owning a personal house, then we are staying in that house, and the house is not generating any money for us. Rather we are spending for its maintenance. The same goes with the car as well. So these are all actually our liabilities. These are not our assets. I know people think that we got a car, we got a house, we got an apartment, so these things are assets, but you can only get some value out of your apartment if you are selling it. But assets are not sold. Assets stay there and they generate money for you. The second is there are other things as well, but I would say we need to find ways so that the money that we get in the early stages of our life, the salary that we get, we actually save it, not save it, we invest it somewhere, and such that money, like, it generates income for us in the later stages of our life. So the other thing that I want to say is that we don't need to, the author says actually, we don't need to run after money. We have to be educated first, and by this the author doesn't mean we need to go to schools and colleges, we need to do our undergrad, graduation, or PG and doctorate. He means we need to learn things that are actually useful in life. My dad always says that it's not, now people think that it's difficult to earn money, but it's not difficult to earn money. Anyone can earn money. What is difficult is that to spend that money and how we decide to spend it. Spending recklessly, that just doesn't work. We need to save money, we need to invest it somewhere, so that that money grows and exponentially, and that money helps us in the later stages of our life, when we become incapable of earning money. So yeah, that's all about this book. Thank you.
Thank you, Samapta. That was a great talk. So it's very important. They say knowledge is power, right? So having knowledge about our assets and liabilities and how to spend it, so actually we can grow financially in life. So that was a great summary. Thank you, Samapta, for the talk. Yeah, Tamar is actually, he's one of the consistent speakers who speaks on finance and investment a lot, which in turn has brought some interest in me to learn about that. So yeah, so Tamar, over to you. So again, today's session also he'll be talking about Rich Dad and Poor Dad.
Yeah.
So over to you, Tamare.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So
Good
one happy news is today I'm completing the Rich Dad Poor Dad chapter. I will start something in the next week. I felt I should stop, but whenever I read a new chapter, I felt something is interesting, which most of us, and though I feel I know everything, whenever I read something, everything is new. So it shows that we know nothing. So I thought of sharing with you. In the 9th chapter, as a conclusion, Robert Kiyosaki is saying some 10 takeaways. So what are those takeaways? Find a greater research than the reality. When you're setting a goal, it should be always a bigger one. Don't think that something can be achieved easily. If you want to achieve the Olympic medal, you need to practice well. For that, you need to start.
Could you come closer to the mic, please? Sorry.
Oh, is it not audible enough?
It's clear now.
Okay, fine. So what he's saying is, the first thing is to have a greater desire than the reality. So one example is, when you want to achieve an Olympic medal or something, you need to start your day early, you need to practice at least 6 to 8 hours a day, and you need to extend. Whereas other people are spending their days with fun and other activities where they need to really take hard activities. If you have something, you need to achieve it. The second thing is make a daily choice, the power of choice, where I can attend this session or I can watch a TV series. If I attend this meeting, what I will get, what I will not lose it. So you have to take a choice. For every time we have to take a choice. Everywhere we have a choice, but it's deciding based on our mindset and where do we want. It's basically what we want and the need basis. The third point, what he is saying is choose the friends carefully, the association. The book reading club is one amazing example, what I could say. So we may not be knowing personally, or we are not very close to each other, but at least one thing is very common with all of us is we want to grow and know more things and give back to the society. Especially when the Sam is taking initiative with one single circle, we all are associating, but kind of we, at least from in this book reading club, we are all in a single minded and we are trying to leverage from others, right? So this is helping. So the association is the key. So if you want to be a cricket player, you should have a friend circle with a cricket circle. Just watching a TV will not help you. If you want to be an investor, you have to start and you should have a people among you with this circle. Then only you will get to hear. And the fourth thing is learn quickly. You try to learn more things. It's a kind of he's insisting that learn, unlearn, relearn. So as an entrepreneur or as an investor, it's not that I know everything. So every day you need to learn. This I feel this is applicable to everyone in the current trend. The fifth point is pay yourself first. So what he is saying when as a business entrepreneur or anyone, let's say being a salaried person, we will keep ourselves as very little. Let it be a woman or a man. When we earn something, until last month I used to do. I will spend, okay, this is for mine, this is for wife, this is for kids. Everything we will allocate, and for me, whatever is left when you say, nothing will be left. So what he is saying is that's very wrong. When you keep doing until you die, you will be ending doing the same thing. So at least you are working. So you should pay for yourself. First you allocate for yourself, and again, yourself doesn't mean for your fun activities or spending. As an entrepreneur, when you wanted to build your entrepreneurship, you need to save something or invest. Rather, he's saying saving is nothing. It's not having any value or a meaning. You need to invest. So when you're investing, that is obviously you're going to take it. That's what he's referring. It's not just as soon as your salary getting credited, I've gone to Amazon or I spent something for XYZ amount and I shopped it. That's not what he's really referring. And coming to the sixth chapter, pay your brokers well. What he's saying, being a real estate broker, real estate entrepreneurship, what he is saying is sometimes we will be end up spending too much amount on some non-income generating thing, or where we don't get a cash flow. But sometimes we will be having a tendency that we don't even spend a 0.5% for someone. So a simple example is when we are going to hotel, we don't mind spending a 10, 20 or 50 bucks for a tip for having a dinner or a lunch. But when broker in the sense who can give you a good leads, probably in your overall deal, if you get a lead, you may get some 20-30% of amount as a profit. That will be some XYZ amount. Among that, your profit probably a 0.5 to the percent you will be giving as a brokerage. So if you keep thinking of saving this 2-3%, you will never get that 20-30% saving. So you create your good broker circle, even though they are paid and costly, it's fine. You just need to see how worthy they are. Then he's coming to the next point is use assets to buy the luxuries. By default, you don't go behind buying a house or buying a luxury car or something. You create an asset, let the asset start giving you a cash flow where that you can pay an EMI or you can buy a whole asset in one shot. So you will get a cash flow. Then the eighth point is an amazing thing. Keep somebody as your hero, the role model. Let's say when I am a street side player, when I'm playing, I feel like I'm a Sachin Tendulkar. At least in my point in time, he was the hero. So we will think Sachin is playing. I feel Sachin is already inside me, I'm playing it. So in your industry, you keep someone as a role model, you start reading about them. If you're an investor, know about Warren Buffett. If you're in the technical stuff, you might be eager to know about what Elon Musk is doing, or Bill Gates is doing, or what Jeff Bezos is doing. Those are very high level people. At least in your circle, whomever you feel it as a role model, whom you can reach or get it. That's where the coach or the guide will come to your picture. At least someone in your industry can keep it in a very high level for your role model to boost yourself. As a fourth or the 10th thing, what I would say is give back to society. What I would say, this session is wonderful example for this. It's a Sam already know things. He wouldn't taken this initiative. So he wanted to give back to the society, but in turn he's getting more. The moment he thought he wanted to give back society, it's coming back. That's a real example. What exactly has been mentioned in the 10th point. So if I want a cash, what I should do is I should start giving to others. So it will go to the society, it will multiply several times and come back. If I want a peace, at least you don't throw anger on others. What you want, you just reflect, it will come back. If you want a contacts or a lead in any business, you don't think that if you give to someone, they will grab your opportunity. That's not the case. The reality is when you help others, when you're giving back to the society, you will get back. So he is given, so in all the 10 cases, he have at least written 2-3 pages of stories. So as a sum, several points are directly, we can relate through this session. So these 10, if you at least 1 or 2, if you start following, you can improve. Then as a last thing, what he's saying is, you should act. Knowing is good for nothing. You should start acting it. So with that, I'm ending my Rich Dad Poor Dad session.
So it's wonderful, Tamarai. Thank you for the summary, and a lot of things actually I think we could relate. And I never expected it was written in the book that we have to give back to the society. I always thought it's all about investment, money, invest here, invest there. So I'm quite surprised that he's saying that, give it to society and you'll get it back. So it's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the great summary, Tamarai. Thank you. Yeah. So applause from everyone.
You want to bring back Niranjana again?
Sure. Niranjana, you are there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So
Sorry
please
for
continue.
inconvenience, some
No
network
issues.
problem.
This happens. So please continue with the topic.
Yes, ma'am. Up to which I was here.
You can start off from starting, no problem. Let's just start off.
Thank you, sir.
Next 3 minutes you have.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to talk about the book, The Magic of Thinking Big. It's written by David J. Jordan. I'm going to talk about the chapter 5, How to Think and Dream Creative. At first, we want to think the meaning of creative thinking. We all clear meaning of creative thinking. We all many of us logically reason science, engineering, arts, and writing at top. When it seems only a creative, it's only a creative. Most of the people think creative thinking like discovery of electricity, polio vaccine, discovering of new things. That's all only a creative things. No, everything in this world, giving it new things is a creative thinking. First, what is creative thinking? For some example, a low-income person plans to send the son to leading university is a creative thinking. A family in the street changed a lot of things in the street, and the neighbor's beauty spot, it's a creative thinking. For the magic of thinking this magic of thinking big book, and I had studied a story based on believe it can be done. This is step 1. To do anything, we must believe it can be done. There was a story, the person in corporate just meet team members, he asked one question. It is possible to eliminate jail within 30 years. They all laughed. The team members told it's a loose idea, it's a mental idea. You are stupid, you can't do it, it's impossible. The crime numbers will be increased. That they gave lots of commands, but the man was so cool. Again, after the 10 minutes, he raised same question. Is it possible to eliminate jail? They all think. 5 minutes, the place was so silent. They thought. They gave one by one. They gave idea. Work to eliminate poverty because most crimes are from the low income level. Next, conduct research to spot potential criminals before cannot be a crime. Develop a surgical procedure to cure some kinds of crimes. Like this, they gave lots and lots of at the end 70 to 80 specific ideas was there in the place. And the time that can believe that when you believe, you find our mind will find a way to do. Our mind will find way to do. We think it is impossible. Mind goes to work for you to prove. We believe it is possible. Something can be done. It can be done anything. Politicians are thinking to keep our country peace by different of creating ideas. Like that, in similar way, you can find way to like a person if you believe you can. You can discover a solution to your personal problem if you believe you can. You can find a way to purchase that new large house if you believe you can. Only we believe we can, it will be. Believe and you will be thinking. Our mind will create a lot, create if you let it. There is another story in the book. I read a story between two persons. Literally 2 years ago, the person was a young person asked a person to arrange a job with a good salary, but he didn't finish his college. He finished only 3 semesters. The man suggested to complete his
Sorry,
college.
Niranjana, that was an awesome talk, but we have exceeded the time. So that was a
Thank
great
you,
talk. Thank you for the summary that belief is the foundation for everything. If you believe we can achieve anything in life. So always keep belief in yourself. So that was a great talk. Thank you, Niranjana. So moving on to our next speaker, Ramesh. So he's going to speak about how to build confidence and destroy fear.
Ramesh
so over
is
to
not.
you, Ramesh.
No, he's not
I think
speaking.
he was.
He's not speaking. I think he had some calls. He couldn't prepare.
All right. So moving on, I think to the last speaker of today, Sam. So he's going to speak about how to use the goals for victory.
Okay.
Yeah.
I realize it is. Okay, good. Okay, hello everyone. So good to see most of the people joining and staying till the last actually. So one of my favorite subject goals, because most of the times I talk about this with people, as well as when a new year comes, I think I talk about this for next 3-4 months actually about goals, and I help people also to setting up goals as well. So the goals is nothing but it's an objective or a purpose, or probably it is a dream which you are acted upon. So in case if the goals was not there, right? So today what we are talking, probably a Zoom or maybe a fan you're sitting under, maybe AC you're sitting under, or maybe an automobile you're riding. Somebody visualized it, somebody put up a goal for that and thought, okay, we will discover this, because they wanted that actually. At that time it was a requirement, they did something and you got that. So probably if nobody would have set goals for themselves, probably would have not had anything in this life. So author says that just like air you have for breathing for your life, goal also is something like which you repeat. It's equivalent to goal or moral life. It is a air for your life. Without goals, if you're going, it's a problem, because 70% of the world's population is stumbling, don't know where they want to go. So it's not that where you are or where you were before, but thinking about where you want to go is very difficult. So most of them do not think about it actually, right? It's like an oxygen for everything. How to set a goals now? So challenge, I think most of them know this, most of them have done it, because you are attending book club, you would have heard about this so many times, but I'll just revise it again so that you'll get a little more information about it. So we can set goals in 3 departments. One is your home department, second one is your work department, and third one is your social department. When it comes to your home department, basically you're talking about your personal goals, where you want to go, what vacation you want to take, how much money you want to make, what kind of house you want to build, what kind of car you want to do, how much you want to give back to the society. A lot of things involved in the home department. Also the relationship as well, what kind of relationship you want to have with people as well at home. And work department is probably your professional career wise, where you want to see yourself as a company owner, entrepreneur, or a director of a company, or an employee, whatever it is, whatever professionally you want to become, what the money you want to make it. So that is one more goal actually. Another goal is of social goals, so where you want to find out socially. First thing is about networking, how many people you want to network with, what kind of people you want to network with, or how many communities you want to be part of, or you want to be head of the community or lead the community throughout the world or in India, anywhere else. So that is one of the social responsibility what we have. So everything comes into picture, so everybody knows what we want to do. And if you want to deep down, go into it a little deeper, so you can break it down as well, like home department, work department, break it down, come into the specifics and say that okay, this is what I want to do. If I want to give an example of a professional goal, if most of them set a goal saying that like I want to get a good job, but they don't have a definition of what is good. So you need to have a definition of what exactly you mean by good. Is it good means you want to have a job in a top 5 companies in the world, or it is that you want to earn 25 lakhs as a CTC or 30 lakhs as a CTC, or you want luxurious life although you have a job, only 8-hour job you want to do, or you want to have an office near to your house. What does that good mean? So most of them cannot define what is good. That's the challenge. So if you define it clearly what you want, that is where you go back and negotiate with people what exactly you want. When you go to a company, if you think I want a good job is I want to be employed in the top 5 companies in the world, then I will only apply for them. Whatever happens, I will apply for it until I get it. I will not go for anything else. That is my goal. So be specific in whatever you set your goal. That is more important. So something like this, I want to build a house. What kind of house you want? So you need to be specific on it. In 5,000 square feet, I want to have a 5 bedroom, I want a 5 bathroom, I want to have a balcony, I want to have a swimming pool. This is how you specifically say these are the things I want. I want house, probably you can live in the half a bedroom house also, you can do that as well. So it depends specifically what you want to do. But the challenge is why people do not achieve the goal. There are a lot of people set goals, right? So if you think about one classic example if I can give is in Jan 20, Jan starting, what you do, people take health goals actually. When you go to any gym, it will be completely filled. You will not get a place to stay there. You don't get parking. So somebody was selling actually on 1st to 5th of every January 1st to 5th, you cannot get parking in Marina Beach because the entire population of Chennai will be in Marina Beach running, walking and taking care of health. After 5 days, only Gandhiji and you will be standing there. Nobody else will be there. Right? That's how it will be. Right? So that's how it is. After 5 days, the goals are gone. So why do we don't achieve the goals? Is first thing is just like somebody was selling in the starting, self-depreciation. I don't know who told, probably somebody talked about magic of thinking big. Self-depreciation. So we don't have, always we become critical on ourselves. I am not good, I cannot do this, I don't have money, my mother will not allow, my wife will not allow, my dad will not allow. All those self-depreciation, I cannot do anything. And it's basically a communication between them. That's it. It's not that you're blaming them, you're always blaming them, but actually if you go and communicate with them in a proper way, everything will fall in. Self-depreciation is first thing. Second thing is securititis. Securititis is basically you're more or less thinking about security. You have very high level goals, but you're not taking risk. So you always think, okay, if I leave this job and do some business, what will happen to my family? What will happen to my saving? What will happen to money? What will happen to my EMI? Everything you're thinking about it, you can go anywhere. If you have big goals and if you want to achieve it, you have to take that risk. Let it go. If 10 lakh goes, but I want to do this and try it out whether it works or not. So securititis will never help. Third thing is on competition. Right? So I used to tell this actually from 15 years back. I used to tell my friends, I want to invent or discover something in the world, but whenever I see everything is discovered, what will I discover now? That was the thinking what I had. Everything is there, everything is available. Car is there, plane is there, phone is there, everything is there. What will you discover now? So, and competition, right? Now, when you get into something, every top Dick and Harry is doing this thing, man. So if I get into it, I will not be able to achieve anything. Actually. So competition. So don't think about competition because whatever you put across, whatever you speak about, it's totally different from somebody else put about. So even a dog has a follower. If you go see in the road, 5 dogs will be behind 1 dog actually follower. So you and me can have thousands of followers. Nothing, no doubt about it actually. Right. Fifth thing is on parental dictation. Fourth one, parental dictation. Parental dictation is one of the curse actually I think we have on the human beings actually because parents most of the times protect us in a very bad way and we don't go over it. Your parents say that you don't do this, you don't do that and all. So classic example, I think Limi yesterday was contacting some lady on workout actually and she told my mother is sick, I want to come to workout and things like that and she agreed. Instead she messages, no, my mom told don't go to workout and all, you're doing too much work at home, don't go workout, you'll be tired. So that is how they know. It's actually mother is not bad, but she is trying to protect her, but she is not understanding working out 1 hour can help her to become more healthy. Right? That's how it is. The parental dictation will put you down more. But again, that communication should be there. So you need to understand, If somebody is from 1988, you need to understand today's world is different, and way you lived that time it was totally different. When you were living, only 20 vehicles were on the road. Pollution was less. Today I have 20,000 vehicles on the road. If I go to the road, I am now taking so much of virus and all those things in my inhalation. You need to understand that. So without workout, I cannot survive. Last thing is family responsibility. This is one thing most of the people who are at least who have a kid and a family, maybe 1 or 2 kids, they will talk about it. They don't want to take any risk because they say family responsibility. Because of my wife and kid, I cannot go anywhere. Because of my mom and dad, I cannot go anywhere. Things like that. So I have decided because of that. My one of the goal in life is saying that I want to be healthy till I become 60, 65. I don't want to depend on my wife. She whatever she wants to do, let her do, because I don't want her to sit and outside the hospital and waiting for me, taking me to hospital. And I don't want to depend on my son as well. So when he becomes adult 20, 25, let him explore the world. Let him go wherever he wants. I don't want to hold him back and say, okay, I took care of you till 24 years, you should take care of me now. No, I am not expecting that from him. When he becomes adult, if you want to explore the entire world, you want wherever you want to go and parent. I am not going to hold you somewhere saying that you have to take care of parents. That is not they are born for. So that is something, family responsibility will put you down. So there are the 5 things which will put you down basically, where you set a goal but you're not able to do it, right? Lastly, I would say, so for everything, whatever you set your goals, it's a step-by-step process what you're going to process. If you're not going to put action step by step, you will fail, you'll get up, you'll fail, you'll get up again, keep a first step and go forward with that. So lastly, the quote which I remember always, this one actually, right? So you overestimate the power of what you can do in 1 year, but you underestimate what you can do in 10 years, right? So if you consistently put effort for 10 years, I think something will happen in your life, whatever you want to do. That's it. Thank you very much, Suman. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sam. That was a very thoughtful talk. And it's very important to set the goal and stay committed to them. So thank you for the talk, Sam. As always, very wonderful. So I think we are done with all the speakers today. So a lot of